What's up, everyone? It's Dani.
And Nick.
Today we are talking about the best things to see and do in Edinburgh. It is pronounced Edinburgh, not Edinburgh. Just so you know, we ran into that problem while we were traveling there.
Yeah, local is like, it's not Edinburgh, it's Edinburgh, and we were like, okay.
So now you know.
We also daily vlogged while we were there, so if you guys are interested in more behind the scenes, feel free to check those out as well.
Please like this video and subscribe to our channel down below.
So
now let's
get
into it. First things first, we would like to talk about accommodations because everything that we talk about in this video will have to do with distances from where we were and how convenient it was to where we were staying. We stayed in an Airbnb that was absolutely incredible. 2 bedrooms, a nice bathroom with heated floors, a giant living room, and a kitchen that you were able to cook breakfasts in, which we did, had a full refrigerator, and a beautiful view of the castle. So it was about 2-minute walk from the castle, right along Grass Market, and right where the restaurants are on Victoria Street.
So now let's talk about attractions. Danielle and my favorite attractions were the Edinburgh Castle and Arthur's Seat.
So to start with Edinburgh Castle, giant castle. We were lucky to get snow there, which was beautiful. So cool. There was a tea room where you could actually sit down and have tea and little sandwiches.
Which we did.
You could walk through a church in there. One of the coolest things was that at 1 o'clock they shoot off a cannon. So we were able to see a cannon go off from the Edinburgh Castle. Awesome thing to see.
You also got spectacular views from the Edinburgh Castle because it's basically in the more or less in the center of town on a hilltop. Half the castle is literally like a rock face around it. I mean, obviously for defense purposes, it was a great location, but because of that, you're up very high, so you get fantastic views of the city of Edinburgh, and you can see Arthur's Seat, which we're going to talk about next. So Arthur's Seat is a small mountain in the heart of Edinburgh. It is within Holyrood Park, so there's other walking trails around it as well, but there's a few main paths that go to the top. One side that we went up is more of staircases, and the other side, on the side of the Palace of Holyrood and where St. Anthony's Chapel is, that's more of a easier walking path to go up from that angle.
It was very muddy along the path that was not staircases, so slippery, and there weren't many hand railings, so just be prepared to wear clothes and shoes that can get muddy, and you might slip around a little bit, but it's totally worth doing.
From the top of Arthur's Seat, you get a fantastic 360 view of Edinburgh.
It was by far our favorite view because there weren't that many people all the way at the tippy top. It was beautiful, you could see around, but it was so windy at the top. And it was drizzling a little bit, so the weather up there was just completely different than down below. Another
thing on Arthur's Seat that's really cool is St. Anthony's Chapel. It's an old little chapel, basically the ruins of it, but it's on the side of the Palace of Holyrood, so when you're coming down or going up, take a few moments to stop there. You can see the ruins of the chapel, and there's actually an old well around there that is very old as well that you can see.
And once you come back down, since you're in the park of Holyrood, you can go to the Palace of Holyrood, which is outstanding and incredibly beautiful. So the Palace of Holyrood, the Queen still goes and stays there about once a year, which was really cool to see where she actually goes. And you could walk through the palace and see different rooms, and they had an audio guide for you, which was so helpful in learning about the history and different paintings and tapestries that were still on the walls. Also, the garden was so beautiful, and you actually get to walk through an old chapel that's there. So that was so crazy that it was still so, the structure was still there, but there was no roof on the top. So it was just incredible to see how intact the formation of everything still was, and to see all the artifacts inside the palace as well.
So to give you guys a little bit of understanding of the layout of Edinburgh, you have the Royal Mile. The Palace of Holyrood is at one end and the Edinburgh Castle is at the other. So there's so much to go on in between there, lots of shopping. Obviously the 2 ends are great things that we both talked about and definite highlights. So you'll spend a lot of time on the Royal Mile.
And definitely walkable from one end to the other.
Another really cool thing that we did, which is actually right after you come out of the Edinburgh Castle, it's very close to it, is called the camera Obscura. The Camera Obscura is a 6-story building with tons of really cool hands-on activities that you can do. A lot of it has to do with like visual stuff and like optical illusions and things like that. And on the top, the very 6th story, you have a balcony that you can also get really good views on, and that's where the actual Camera Obscura is. And what that is basically is a mirror that gives you a reflection onto this kind of like table thing. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you go, it's about a 15-minute presentation you do. You start there and you work your way down the museum. Some of the highlights there was a mirror room, you know, when you're in there and you can't tell which person is real and you don't know which way to go. That was really cool. And then there's this optical illusional tunnel. What did they call it?
The vortex.
The vortex, where it's you walk through and you feel like you're spinning. That is another really fun thing to do as well.
Yeah, that was so fun.
The Camera Obscura definitely was worth doing, and it blew away our expectations, to be honest. So it's a really easy thing to do right after you either do the Edinburgh Castle or before you do it because it's so close to it.
Also, not too far down, if you're going to do Edinburgh Castle, then go to the Camera Obscura, then you can go to St. Giles Cathedral.
Yes.
That was a free thing to do, and it was beautiful to walk through. Pretty short. You did not go to the top or like other cathedrals that we did. There weren't too many things to see in there, but still beautiful church to go check out. And it's right along the Royal Mile as well, so it's very convenient.
For Harry Potter fans out there, there's an old cemetery called, I think, Greyfriars Kirk. And basically, just to give you guys a little tip, it's where J.K. Rowling found some of the names that she uses in Harry Potter. You can actually see the tombstones. It's kind of morbid, but the tombstones of Lord Voldemort or Thomas Riddle, where she found some of the names. McGonagall is also in there as well, and that's what some of the inspiration for some of the Harry Potter character names.
And that cemetery is right across the street from the National Museum of Scotland, which was so much fun because it was hands-on.
And free.
And free, and so many things to see there. So we were playing games, learning about history, and it was about 3 to 4 stories high, so many things to do in there. So I would totally recommend the National Museum of Scotland just because it would be fun for kids and adults.
Yes. So besides the Edinburgh Castle and Arthur's Seat, those are 2 fantastic views, Arthur's Seat just being the best. But another good view is Calton Hill. There's some cool monuments up there that is definitely worth going to see, and there's also really good views. They have this one monument that is some old columns, kind of looks Roman, and there's a few other monuments dedicated to important people, and there is one that is a spire that you can actually climb up to the top to. You do have to pay to do that one, but you can also get some good views there as well. There's a great view of Arthur's Seat from there, but obviously Arthur's Seat's the tallest thing in Edinburgh, and that's where we're going to get the best views, but Calton Hill is cool to see as well. One fun thing to do at night that Danielle and I did is we went to this place called the Library Bar. It's on the University of Edinburgh's campus, but it's this old bar, more or less like an old library that's been turned into a bar. It was almost entirely filled with students there, some studying, some just drinking, but it was cool just to go be in that atmosphere, have a drink there, and in a very different type of bar than you've ever been in.
Lastly, for attractions, there's also the Museum of Edinburgh, which is something that is important to that city. Obviously, it is their museum. It was closed Monday and Tuesday, so we unfortunately did not get to make it there, but we got to see it from the outside, and it was just very attractive in the way that they had these bright colors that want to bring you in, and it wasn't too far from the Palace of Holyrood, so you could do that along the Royal Mile as well. And I've heard great things about that museum, so if you are there while it's open, definitely go check it out. As we said, we stayed near the Edinburgh Castle, so for our restaurant recommendations, 3 out of 4 of them are near the castle. Number 1 would be the Fiddler's Arm. We had these delicious brie squares that were basically like brie mozzarella sticks. Out of this world crazy good. And then also Victoria Street had so many restaurants along it, so Oink was one of our favorites. It was easy and you just walk in. It was kind of creepy because they had an actual pig head in there, but it was delicious pork sandwiches.
And barbecue's so good.
All-time favorite restaurant along Victoria Street also was Howie's. Delicious food. I had gnocchi and he had this fish called hake, I think, and it was so good. We went there multiple times. The staff was so friendly and it was in a convenient location. We also loved Biddy Mulligan's, which was right on the corner of Grassmarket and Victoria Street.
It was like this little old Irish pub. We had 2 fantastic meals. I had the lamb stew, and you had
steak pie, which I was like, what even is a steak pie? I've seen it on a couple of the menus there. But basically it was like a chicken pot pie, but with steak, and it was so good.
Could not go wrong there.
And then by the Palace of Holyrood, which was right along the tip of the Royal Mile, we loved Kilderkin. We had mac and cheese there that was just so creamy and delicious, especially on a cold, windy day there.
So now let's talk a little bit about transportation. Danielle and I came from London, and we decided to take a high-speed train instead of fly. It was just a tad over 4 hours because there was a few stops along the way, but it was so easy, much easier than an airport, and we would highly recommend taking the high-speed train.
It also was nice that there were outlets on the train, so if you're working on a computer or just playing on your phone, you were able to charge them without a worry. And we also met some friends on the train, and they subscribed. So if you're watching this, hey, friends from the train.
They're moving to Perth, Australia.
Yes.
And they're from Newcastle.
So just cool to make relationships along transportation. The bad move that we made was once we arrived at the train station in Edinburgh, we walked to the Grassmarket area where Airbnb was, and it was not easy with luggage to get there. You had to walk upstairs, downstairs, around all of these hills. It just wasn't very convenient, and we would suggest to get a taxi or an Uber just for convenience. It wasn't very far, but with bags, it just doesn't make sense to struggle.
And Edinburgh doesn't have nearly as extensive of public transportation as something like a city of London, but it does have a tram that goes to and from the airport, and they do have Uber and taxis. We used an Uber to get to the airport when we were flying from there to Paris, and it was very easy.
Edinburgh doesn't have many buses or city transportations simply because it isn't necessary. You can easily walk, as we said, from the Edinburgh Castle to the Palace of Holyrood very fast, probably less than 20 minutes. So everywhere you can walk, it is a walkable city. So just don't be worried about there not being much transportation. If you feel like you need a car, as we said, there are taxis. And as Nicholas just said, we did travel from Edinburgh to Paris, which will be our next video. So if you're interested in doing a trip like us, please check that video out as well.
If you guys have any questions about planning a trip to Edinburgh, please don't hesitate to leave us a comment below. We'd be more than happy to answer it. While you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a big thumbs up. And we will see you guys in our next video.
Bye.